only way to start your day.
In which they've been found doesn't suggest anything else except for the fact that their life has been taken in a grotesque manner, especially the stories that we've seen in the last couple of days. The number that we're looking at is in excess of 10,000 children between January 2025 and March 2026. Now, when somebody says a child, we often see them, don't we? Every now and then in your WhatsApp, you're going to see, or on social media, you're going to see, and even from the child helpline, child line, you see from other reports that there's a missing child, last seen wearing such and such. They were in the company of whomever, if they were. The numbers are too high. Yep. One child missing is one child too many. 10,000 children missing and or dead over 15 months is astronomical. And somebody gave us a statistic just a few minutes ago that you didn't even have that number of people dying from COVID in a particular area where things were bad, but that their children taken from families, their children lost from mothers and fathers, that their children trafficked, that there are those who've been defiled and killed. What mental torture is happening in the families where these children are no more? Who is asking the question? And to whose doorstep then are we taking this? Because I do admit that there are different factors for the disappearance of these children. One of them has been listed as abandonment issues, whereby, a child is found. Just the other day, very sadly, we found a child. We heard the story of a child who'd been found buried alive. Somebody didn't want that baby, and they felt as though the best option was to bury this child in the ground. Obviously, this child died, and that became a story. We have had children who have been dumped in places, and rescue has to happen.
Abandoned in hospitals.
Abandoned in hospitals. A mother has been delivered of her baby, and she has stood and left as though it didn't matter. There are those who've dumped them in public places hoping that somebody would find them. And in some cases, it has taken too long and the child has passed. So what is the reasoning behind abandonment, which we found is the highest number of cases of these children who've gone missing? Yes, it is. So what's happening there? Are we looking at economic situations that cannot be helped? Are we looking at issues of marital relationship issues that they can't agree? Are we looking at a woman is pregnant and the person who is responsible for the pregnancy has decided, well, I'm not playing this game with you? What exactly are we looking at here? Then we move to where we have issues where children have been taken, kidnapped, whereby the surveillance is asked to be stepped up significantly so that they're not. All of a sudden, we've seen a flurry. Estate groups are telling each other, we need to be very careful. Don't just allow children to walk on their own, etc., etc. And then there's just too much. And here we are dealing with situations where we don't even know the genesis of some of them. But then you have to ask the question, who is protecting our children?
True.
Who do we... This is not pointing fingers at anybody, but it's time for us to have a conversation and for us to be eternally vigilant about some issues here. Because children, whether we want to accept it or not, are the future. They're tomorrow, the next day, but they're also part of our families. I said, when my son was missing for 25 minutes in the supermarket, I was going mad. So when your child does not come home, or they went to school and they've not come back, or for some reason they're found dead, you start to ask many questions. What exactly happened to them?
For a very long time, these cases have been looked as just other statistics that have existed there, because the cases of children being abandoned did not start today. It's only now that we're looking at 10,000, and we're looking at that again as an astronomical number, as you say. But remember what that would mean to a family, what that means to a country, because 10,000 individuals into an economy are individuals who are able to push and change things. So let's look at this abandonment as denying these children an opportunity to be the very best versions of themselves. But like you said, what are some of the reasons behind that? Like you've said, abandonment comes out as being one of the leading factors. But what then forces that abandonment to happen? We look at marital issues that have not been solved, We look at the cost of living is there as well. And we're also looking at individuals whose parents have passed on. They've left these children to guardians, and guardians who as well say, you know what, I have my own baggage I'm dealing with. I can't take care of you, because there's a story that we did the other day where a guardian was left with this child, and this child ended up at a children's home because they said, I can't deal with this because of the pressures that I do have. But that notwithstanding, then, what is the responsibility of not only the government, but us as a community in taking care of our children and ensuring these cases stop existing? Because like you said, one case is one too many.
What should we do? And
that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm at a loss because, you know, a lot of things are prescriptive, whereby you say, well, okay, if there's a corruption, jail the corrupt. In this case, where children go missing, where people are using them for different things. Yeah. Because, like we said, there's a myriad of issues here. True. There's a child trafficking thing. There's, you know, organ trafficking that goes on, which we cannot deny is a reality. There are people who people want babies. And I remember Jerry Mwangi did this story, BBCI, and talked about the fact that they are brokers. It sounds crazy, but that children are sold as though you were selling cattle. That somebody can go into a hospital and her baby will be taken from her, and she's been told that this baby has died. So then where do they go? Well, somebody's trading them, and somebody's taking these children. These are things that actually happen. But when we see missing child and the poster is put up, where do these children actually go? Yeah. And what do we actually do? What kind of conversation do we have? Because it is one of the cases where we say, okay, fine. Are the police aware? Should we be told if a child is seen wandering around? How many of us take the responsibility to say, excuse me,
why are you
here by yourself? Who do you take this child to? Do you take them to the nearest chief? Do you take them to the nearest police station? Do you take them to your house? What do you do with them? If you take them to the nearest police station, I've seen a case where the police officers keep them in the police station until they're able to do the due diligence, and then they find whom they belong to. But then they feed them there. Do they keep them in a cell?
Because let's ask a question. Do you know of any safe house near your area?
No.
I don't either. I know of a children's home, but is that a place where I take a child who's been abandoned? Because you see, if unfortunately we have to compare, if you compare with what happens in the children's services, it is so clear that even when a parent is thought or is seen to be mishandling a child, the children's services will come and take custody of that child until that time when they're able to sort out the issues within the family, or foster care family is also well clearly spelled out and structured. Here we find ourselves in a case where a child is clearly being mishandled, is being abused. That child decides to leave because of the abuse. As a community, as a people, do we know what we need to do when we see these things? Do we know where to go to? Do we go to a police station where a child will be put together with adults in a cell? What should we do? That's the question, actually. That's the question.
The numbers are on our screen this morning, 0732-142-653, 0732-142-650. We want to hear from you this morning. Is this a bigger issue than we're able to actually handle? And what do you do? Are we hearing more and more of these cases? This number has hit us in the face this over the last couple of days, and that we didn't realize that the numbers were so high. Did we know that children are missing at 23 per day for the last 15 months? Did we know that around the country, over 10,000 children have gone missing for whatever reason? Missing means they cannot be found, or that they have turned up dead, having been killed. And these are also the children who have been raped and murdered that we've seen have been found. And yes, boys and girls. And that we know that children have been trafficked and moved to other parts of, it could be the country, the world, whatever the case may be. Some of these have been attempted and have been foiled. But this number that we're talking about are the children that have not been found.
And you see the 10,000.
We're not talking about the ones that have been found safely. Say, we found him. No.
Have not been found.
They've not been found, or they've been
found
dead. They've not been found or they've been found dead. These are the numbers that we're talking about. Did we know that this was such a terrible situation? And what should actually be done? This is the question that we're asking because, man, I'm at a difficult place. I'm at a loss. A difficult place where you say, come on, what are we saying here? And who are these families?
Yeah.
Who are these families where if we're saying that it's one child per mother and father, it's talking about 10,000 families for who their children have been missing in the last 15 months.
Yep.
What is going on? And I think we're at the place where we can ask a question here and it has to be a collective answer. It's not to say, well, the police aren't doing their job and this government is terrible, but when a child is not there, if a child is gone from your presence for 3 minutes, where do they, what is actually going on? And I think this is a conversation that we want to open up today and to ask questions. Yeah, so we must ask at some point, the Department of Children's Services, like you say, the police, chiefs, families, caregivers, there's a collective responsibility here. And so we'll have a conversation with you, but then also just a sad element that last week we did see the arrest of a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
15-year-old girl that was aiding and abetting in children moving. Now, was she a caregiver? But a 2-year-old girl, and this is the one that she was found with, she was in the presence of a 2-3-year-old girl, and she was in the process of having this girl taken from point A to point B, and there was some money that was going to exchange hands. So she was moving children. She was trafficking children. And how many more are involved in this situation where we're looking at such staggering numbers and are not able to answer? Are we at a place where this one we actually cannot answer? This one you cannot blame the president.
Yes.
This one you cannot blame but all of us where we're saying that if children go missing and we're not asking, and if we start to ask questions when the parents send out a cry for help, what do we do? What do you do when you come into contact with a child who is obviously where they need not be? Do we kind of say, okay, well, there's a child over there. I hope somebody picks them up and takes them to where they ought to go? What actually ought to happen? It's the case of missing children that we are discussing this morning and actually asking the questions in terms of where are we as a society? Who could these children be? They were in a class somewhere. They were somebody's daughter, son. They were somebody's charge. Where did they go? And exactly what is going on with them?
I was just looking at some few things here, and according to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights now, a missing person retains all property, legal and civil rights. Their rights cannot be seized, sold or automatically inherited simply because they are missing. Now, number two, what the law says is there is no waiting period to report a missing person in Kenya. Reports should be made immediately at the nearest police station to be logged in the occurrence book. There is also the fact that most of the time when you go in, there's talk or there are reports that you're told the person has to be declared missing until after 48 hours or 24 hours. So there is that,
hours.
and that is what many have picked up being said, I can only report after 24 hours. But here being told upon that point where you have determined that someone is lost, you go report it immediately. What the police will now declare as a missing person comes after, but reporting should be done immediately. Now, presumption of death, and unfortunately we have to talk about it, is if a missing person has not been heard from or seen for 7 years by those who would naturally be in contact with them, families can apply to the court under Section 118A of the Evidence Act or an order of presumption of death. This allows families to legally finalize affairs, settle estates, and manage property. So with all this, now you have the Law Society of Kenya that provides legal assistance in case you find yourself in court about this matter. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights investigates cases of enforced disappearances and state abductions as well. One would say they would help as well in tracing, where Red Cross as well comes in to assist in these cases of an individual who is lost. Also, Missing Child Kenya specifically handles missing children's tracing and support. So all these are agencies that come together to ensure that a solution towards these cases are found. But do we know of all these agencies that we would run to? And how approachable or how close are they to the communities for us to say, nilienda kwa ofisi ya Red Cross, or I went to the office of the Law Society or Missing Child Kenya to assist me with this issue?
Do we know? Well, okay, if you were to run, I mean, just from what you said now, if you were to run into a child that obviously didn't have somebody around them, what would you then do after? We also know, also from this, is that there are children who are moved to go and actually do work.
Yeah.
There are, in this Nairobi, that there are houses, places where children who've been, I don't know where they've been taken from, the child that's abandoned or the one that is, stolen, that they are put in, they live in places, and then in the morning they are taken out of the houses and they're put on the street to essentially go beg to collect money. There's somebody who rallies them around, and then they collect the money at the end of the day. Then they keep them here, they feed them whatever it is that they feed them during the day. But essentially they're mules to go collect money, come back, kind of like mules. But in this case, what they're doing is collecting money and posing as children of others. But the burden, I think, here is that the number is grossly high, and that regardless of the fact that there are very many reasons as to why all of these children are missing in this period. Remember that this number that we're talking about is over the last 15 months.
Yeah.
And there are different factors that contribute to these children missing, but the fact that they are missing and still missing means that nothing has been done about it. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, you are.
Would you be able to, if you were able to trace certain things, is it that we don't have adequate resources to find them? Is it that because we have to wait for a particular time to then establish whether they're missing? Do we have safeguards in place? In your estates, for example, is a child allowed to leave unsupervised? Are they allowed to walk along? Because nowadays, from what we are understanding, you can't even leave a child to walk from maybe where the school bus drops them to their house. Because last week, did we not see the van that was basically waiting around the school until somebody sent an alarm out? And then now you ask, okay, what would they have actually done? As the dark interwebs where things are happening, where children then are being looked for. There are too many questions and not enough answers about what is happening with these children who've gone missing. And that we are quiet about it until somebody raises the alarm, I think is a lot more crazy. We know that Childline Kenya and a number of others who work with, there's Missing Children Kenya, who work with these and then try to work with the police to look for them or to find them. But then what happens after that? Many times you will see a situation where a child is clearly uncomfortable in the presence of the adult that they're with, and you want to ask yourself the question, okay, what's happening here? Am I too forward? Should I be able to ask, mama yako? Should I have the confidence to ask because I'm being a little bit more careful?
Yeah.
Or have we all secluded into our little comfortable cocoons whereby you don't want to topple the apple cart, you don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, so you're not going to ask if that's actually your kid? When it comes to children, should we poke our noses and say, excuse me, the way this child is crying does not look like they're comfortable with you? Should we say, when it concerns children, poke your nose in that business?
I think we should, because for a very long time, I'd say being raised, we were our communities, I want to say property one. Because another parent would find you doing some silly things and they would take care of you. They would see you in a place where you ought not to be there. They would hold your hand and take you back home. Have we lost our place, our sense of community in taking care of our children and the most vulnerable in the society? Because most of the time nowadays, even if you see someone's child doing the wrong thing,
you don't speak about it.
You don't speak about it because it is none of your business. So, but then again, how do we take collective responsibility as a country in taking care of our children?
And now they're missing. All right, let's hear from you guys this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Lou. And this is Kerry.
Hi, Kerry. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Welcome.
Yes. I just want to say a few things here. The first place where we must stop is that there's an organization called the Child Welfare Society.
Yes.
That, for example, the question you ask when you find a child who is in a place where they're not supposed to be, do you care to find out where you can take them to? This organization gets money, I think up to $1 billion from the Exchequer. But there are reports from the Auditor General that has shown that the monies in this organization have been mismanaged.
Okay.
The executive director has gone to court to seek. We cannot even discuss as we speak because there is an eternal court order that never seems to end, that you should not discuss anything about that organization. There's government, the Ministry of Child Protection that I saw the CS speaking recently does not touch that organization. And so that is just the problem is wide. We have the criminality aspect, we have incest, we have negligence by parents. The problem is wide, but the best organization that even needs the mandate expanded is the child welfare. These ones are the people, the professionals who have been trained to take care of children. They have a huge budget from the exchequer, but because of I can't call it, is it a Kenyan habit or people in government and their mentality where every public service is a place to enrich self. And there's people who have overstayed in that organization in senior management positions where they never move. The board of directors are appointed by the Minister for Finance and they appoint their cronies. And so they are untouchables. Parliament opened an investigation. Yes. They went mum. Your own media house was there, did a thorough job. They were gagged by a court order. So it's a huge problem that, although you said it's not a problem that we can blame government or the president, but on this one, I think the government is directly responsible because in a comment I just wrote earlier on YouTube, I'm thinking, is it cultism that has taken root in Kenya, or is it somebody is so much engaged in child trafficking? But the best people who could have given us solutions, and those who would have given us a comprehensive report so that we see where the weaknesses are within society that can be addressed by Kenyans themselves, and where government can come into play, where again other arms of state or society can engage and find a solution. 10,000 children getting lost is not a joke. By now it should be announced as national disaster.
Yeah.
It is a sad thing. We are afraid. I don't know now where to hide my children.
Or to let them out of your sight, even for a few minutes. Yeah.
Yes. Right now, you can't even allow them to be out of your sight for 2 minutes. But again, the demands of fending for them would not allow you to be there always. And so we need support, maybe for the government just doing its work. Let's the intelligence and these people from sit down, professionals, let them find out. In fact, it should be done within the next 6 hours. By 2 p.m., 3 p.m., we need to have a comprehensive report to know what is happening on this front. Is society failing? Are we as parents failing? Are we not being our brother's keepers? Even if I'm taking care of my child, am I not looking out for that other child? Because long time ago when we were growing up, the responsibility of bringing up the children was a societal thing. Absolutely. So you could be disciplined by any grown-up around the area. So is it that system that has failed? We no longer look up and no longer be a brother's keeper. When, like you said, you look at the child and they're not supposed to be there, they're supposed to be in school, but they're playing football at a football field. Did you care to find out where to take them? And again, even if you find them and you find 5 or 3 and they tell you they don't have anywhere to go, the best home for them would have been the Child Welfare Society, where they rehabilitate, reunite these children with their families, or if their families are incapable, even give support. When it used to work, when the organization used to work, they used to even open a small business for either parent so that they're able to support. And they monitor until they find that when that family is able to support this child, then they hand over the child back to the family. But if you're unable, then they stay with the child until they get the age of 18, and they ensure that they get jobs and what have you. And that was a society that cared about, we were at least a brother's keeper. But with corruption everywhere, now it becomes very difficult. Let me yield space for others, please.
Kerry, thank you very much for your call this morning, of course. And I think that kind of forms the basis for a question that we'll be asking in a few minutes. Thank you very much for that, Kerry.
Thank you.
And really, is it time that we go back to raising children as a village? caring for children as a village, because
Yeah.
truly, we're told of times whereby the person who is your neighbor can actually discipline you, and they see you as a child walking from one place to another. They can actually ask you, "Excuse me,
Yeah.
where are you going?
Why are you not in school?
Why are you not in school? Number one,
Who's
or
your
even if it's
Take me home.
who's your oh, I know your father. Does your
Yeah.
father or your mother know that you're here?" And those used to be very normal things, because what did it mean is that there was a community essentially that was raising a child. It was not just, in the family that was raising the child, but that everybody was concerned in the bringing up. But haven't we kind of morphed as a society whereby everybody is minding their own business, nobody is concerned about everybody else's affairs, so that you will not be called a nose poker? But then here we are in a situation, but look at what it's done. And that have we tossed the merits of being involved in somebody else's business for the demerits?
I mean, we say that we've stopped being a village, but we can also become a village in a modern way. Let me just read what the real SC has said. And because he lives in America, he's telling us what happens there. The real SC says that there are amber alerts in the USA. Let me just do this real quick. There are amber alerts. Okay, technology. There are amber alerts in the United States of America that notifies everyone on their mobile phones the moment a child is missing. It contains the last known description or car license number that this child was in. So we have come to a point where a lot has changed. The village taking care of a child has stopped being the thing, right? But knowing very well the way our communities have changed, what new or modern ways can we apply in taking care of these children? So an amber alert is sent, say, within that jurisdiction. So let's take Embakasi, for example, in Embakasi, right? And amber alert is sent to everyone who's connected within, say, that what do you call it? That mast. Everyone gets that message. That message would be shared by everybody who's gotten it to everybody else, including the picture of that child where they were last seen. And that message travels far and wide. Are we looking at these as the solution, especially at a time when the village has stopped existing to take care of the child?
Yeah.
So what can we do right now, today, in the 21st century, to address these issues?
Yeah, and we have to.
We have to.
We really do. Because I know that, how do you hear about a lot of the children that are missing today? It's a WhatsApp message. It's spread from groups to groups.
Yes.
And we're told, okay, send this message to all of your networks, your groups, let people know that this child is missing or whatever the case may be. How many of us actually send that on? How many of us are looking out for such a thing? What it does require of us as a society is to then be vigilant. And do we have the time? Do we have the interest to be vigilant? And that's why that question is on our post today, that is it about time that we went back to being the village that raises children? Because you're not going to come today and tell the police to find 10,000 children. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
There's a responsibility that is with Child Welfare Society. And I agree with what Kerry had said.
Yes.
But then there's a responsibility minute to minute that rests on our shoulders that we ask the question. Do you know how many children, the ones that you see hawking on the streets, have been hit by vehicles and then they die?
True.
Do we know?
How many just got sick because they were rained on and pneumonia came and they died?
Died.
Yeah.
And their parents, they don't know exactly what, and they have been missing for a while. They cannot find them.
You remember there's a time when there was a case in Nairobi. There were cases in Nairobi where street children were barring each other when the numbers were high. Remember, these are children who either they were abandoned, they ran away from home, came to the streets, and now we see, because of, I think it was during the demo time, and many were killed, and they went back to bury each other, because who else comes to bury them?
These are the questions. And the numbers that we're coming from this morning is over 10,000.
That we know.
That we know of. Those are the ones that have been reported. That's the conversation that we're having this morning. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and take your calls on 0732 142 653 or 0732 142 650. I want to hear from you this morning. Is it time that we went back to raising children as a community, as a village? Is it time? Let's talk after this.
Is the Situation Room the only way to start your day?
Hearing, groups that take children and sell them, on whatever market it is, the dark whatever, these crazy things that happen. But that's the reality of the nation's children in 15 months. And that is what we are looking at today. And if this doesn't vex you, if it doesn't vex you, or at least move something in you to say, this is wrong, because then let's bring it home a little bit. What is happening to that child in the estate who for some reason has been taken, has been put in the boot of a vehicle or put in the back seat and is kept somewhere, and then you get a call later and they're saying, we have your child, pony up a certain amount of money. What is happening to that child? What is happening to the one who has been taken by the 15-year-old girl that we saw last week, a 2-3-year-old baby, who doesn't have the wherewithal, who doesn't to fight back?
Or to even cry
Or to even
taken away.
Or to even ask questions about where they're being taken, because this child is known to this person who is taking them. So he's none the wiser that they could be in any potential danger. What's happening to them? What's happening to the families who are tormented because their children have been taken? Those who don't know exactly where they went? What's happening to them? If we as a society are not able to deal with and or answer the questions that we're raising this morning, then perhaps our problem is a little bit deeper than we want to embrace.
I'm just going to read what a few are saying here. Obara Obundi saying, to start with, all chiefs, camps, ward representative officers need to have a child protection officer or officers. And Margaret says she used to work for Child Welfare Kenya, and she wishes she was in charge of tracing and reintegration because she felt the pain of parents, and she started tracing them through the newspapers. We have the readers here as well, whose comment I did read, and Izakar is asking the very same question. Did the village stop raising children? Is the question. And Tuflani says, as a society, we have failed the kids. We have to take responsibility too. And we modernized our societies and eliminated the intricacies that used to hold us together. That is Eric War. And Christina says, these kids are being waited for at school. My grade 2 daughter was carried by a boda she doesn't know twice. I just realized when I asked my grade daughter not to allow her sister to go out of the gate. That is the real example of an individual who's actually just sharing their problem. She says, mind you, this boda has been carrying my kid, but my mother hasn't been aware. Even my sister didn't know. It came up when I was alerting my mom about children getting stolen. And when we were speaking here, but we've talked about the community aspect of raising these children, the responsibility that the government of Kenya has, and the Children Welfare Society that has the mandate to ensure that such cases are handled. But then again, Ndu, the closest place that Kenyans usually run to is a police station.
If they know that.
Okay. It's a police station. Now, when you go to a police station, how are you handled as the person who's reporting? Where is this child being kept as investigations continue? Is there linkage between the police and, say, missing children welfare as a society that then comes and takes that? What is the collaboration with other agencies in this space to trace where this child comes from, to reintegrate them to the society? And in the event that we are unable to trace where this child comes from, what do we do with them? Where do we take them? Are there safe houses? Do we have children homes where these children are taken care of as we continue the investigation? Because a child's story will never end until that time they either become an adult. So tracing continues even after they become adults.
This is why it would have been so wonderful to have the PS here.
Yeah.
Because there's policy direction that is taken. And that because the policy is then formed, and then the different agencies that work within the same spectrum then are able to take that policy and then make it applicable to how these things work, and then to answer some of these questions that we're asking. That with all the other things that police and stations have to deal with, how do you deal with a situation where a child may be missing? If there are 2 cops on the beat, for example, and they're out and they see a child, is the first thing to say, okay, ask questions about who they are. Do they bring them back to the station until they're able to establish who they belong to and then get them back in terms of following protocol? So it would be nice to hear from that perspective exactly what happens. Child Welfare Society, we know they take in children.
Yeah.
They look over these children home, because remember, Children's Home also had issues about how they were moving children from Kenya outside the country.
Yes.
There was that big issue as well. Do these children fall into this bracket that we're talking about? Again, yes, Kerry reminds us of an investigative piece that was actually done by the Standard Group a couple of years ago about what really happens in some of these holding centers for children, and who's responsible for making some of these, wheels turn.
Yeah.
But what is the first port of call?
Yeah.
Look, this number is too high. One is too much for us to be comfortable in our space where we say, well, that's Dennis's business over there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with that story. No. In this case, this is where we want you to be a poke-noser. Nose poker.
Please, poke
One
it.
of the two.
Just be a poker.
Yeah. In this case is where we are saying that we need you to not mind your own business. Where you mind your business and drink water, this is not one of them. Especially when you see something that could go all right, are you asking and saying, excuse me, where are you going with this child?
Yeah.
Why is this child walking on their own? This one who is just sitting in the marketplace doesn't seem to know where their parent is. Can you take the 3 minutes to take them to the next spot where it says, there's something going on here, can you make sure? And then that's what I'm asking about from a policy direction space. Police, care agencies who deal with this first port of call, what are they supposed to do so that other people know what they're supposed to do as well? If do you take them and bring them to your house? Are you breaking the law?
That's the thing.
What do you do in that case? Who is to answer these questions? And what is to happen? Because guess what? The questions are not being answered. Nobody knows where they're supposed to go. Nobody is reporting in the correct place. That's how you end up with 10,000 missing children.
Yeah, because this is the thing, you take a child today, they're put in a cell. They're not criminals.
But I mean, what are you going to do? Where are you going to put them? Where are the police going to put them?
That's the first question, right? And then even when the police wanted to then move them to, say, the Children Welfare Society, we're talking about 10,000. Are they able to, say, hold even 1,000 children there and deal with them as they continue with investigations? I don't know where even their offices are. I've never seen like a holding area for these children. I'm sorry, I don't know. I've never seen even one. So today, if I see a child, the first place I will call the welfare. But remember, Ndu, as well, you are, say, you're living here, you're going home, you see a child who's missing. The first place you go to is a police station. And after that, you move on with your life.
Yeah.
Right. Now, from then on, it is the police to take the responsibility and follow through. But if we knew where these holding centers are, these numbers, and then again, what is the call time or the response mechanism? How long does it take for these welfare societies to react to a case? Or am I forced to go with this child to my house until you come pick them up?
This is the question. But then also, and it's going to be a bit of a maybe controversial question, but have parents also abdicated their responsibility when it comes to the care that needs to be given to children? When you tell your you see, when we were when maybe people older than us were younger, that you could send a child 3 kilometers to the shop and you could be sure, because societies and communities had not been corrupted to the point where we are broken to the place where we are today. So you could send your child to go buy 1 cup of sugar, 3 loaves of bread, 3 cups of sugar, 1 loaf of bread.
They forget, they come back to ask.
They could go and come back and nobody's asking. And somebody along the way would say, hey, this is so-and-so's child, everything is okay. Can we do that today? Unfortunately, communities and society has been diseased to the point whereby you can't do that anymore. Or are we saying that you have the choice? Because we live in a bad world. I mean, it sounds like a fairy tale, but that's the truth. That can you say, I'm going to allow my child go from point A to point B without a check? So can parents be blamed there as well? To say that because things have relaxed, we need to tighten. And that you cannot allow this to happen anymore in the way in which perhaps it happened at a time gone by. Have society and community become so corrupted that we cannot allow children to operate as they did before? Because they will be taken, kidnapped,